Hi guys, Richard here. So I got a question recently around the differences between B2B versus B2C, business to business versus business to consumer. A lot of the times you got other stuff like now coming out like the direct to consumer and B2B versus B2B to C and stuff like that. But I'm just going to go through the basic of B2B versus B2C because that's where kind of like 90% of the companies kind of sit at right now these days, especially in tech. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So I'm going to break it down, hopefully. Not all this is true, by the way, definitely, but I'd say majority is true. Kind of like, if you want to look at this kind of like B2B versus B2C kind of lens. And so the first thing you kind of want to look at is relationship versus transactional. Obviously, a lot of B2C companies also focus on relationship, but this is like kind of the best way kind of to look at it. A B2B company's buying process, because you're selling to businesses, can be a lot longer than a consumer, right? Unless obviously if it's like a really like a mortgage product or like something like, something big, obviously it can take longer. But a lot of the times it's transactional. So for B2C. So if I'm buying something online, for example, a new mouse or a new cup, or let's say something, I don't know, like a dictionary, I'm generally buying that in the first day. Like I don't really have a need to look at other products unless I'm buying something that's a bit more expensive. But even then, I won't take too long to decide, especially if I'm looking to buy that today, right? The difference is in in B2B marketing is the buying process could take somewhere between a day to years, right? And so if it's years, you're constantly needing to talk to every function of a business, especially if it's a big transaction like $1 million deal. You have to go through a lot of functions. You can't just talk to the technical people. You have to talk to finance people. You have to talk to maybe even the marketers or HR. There's so many functions of the business you might potentially talk to, depending on what your product is, that it involves so many arms. And so you're working constantly with a huge buying team, and you have a huge team working together and trying to put like the concept together so you can sell them the product. Well, so obviously B2C is a lot more transactional. It's quicker. Obviously, if someone leaves their cart and does something, you might get an email saying, hey, come back, we'll give 10% off. Still transactional because you're coming back and you're still purchasing the product quite relatively soon. So that's the main difference I want to put in relation, like in that kind of aspect around the selling process. Now, around the targeting process, generally you have what you call a niche, ABM, versus kind of like a broader targeting kind of like focus. And so I'm not saying obviously I'm going to reiterate, it's not always true, but this is how normally it operates. So if you're B2B, generally you're selling a niche product or you're focusing on a niche. So let's say you are selling networking. So you're selling networking solutions. Then your niche generally could be the networking teams and stuff like that. But then you also need to go deeper than that. Like you need to go, okay, what networking teams, what industries need my product, right? It could be very like focused around your financial companies for some reason, or it could be focused around like your property management companies, obviously for obvious reasons. And so you need to focus on those niches. And then ABM, which is just account-based marketing, you need to basically get, okay, I want a list of 100 property management companies, and I'm going to target those 100 companies, right? So it becomes a very art of trying to be super targeted and granular, because if you get one of those companies to buy, you're pretty much selling like maybe $50,000 to $1 million deals. You're selling a big portion. And so your time needs to be spent on targeting, right? Rather than going like spray and pray, which is what broad is. So a lot of the times, let's say with Amazon, yes, you have niche categories of products and stuff, but generally their strategy is to get to every consumer and get every consumer to buy something that they want, right? And so a lot of the times it's a lot of broad targeting. You're using Facebook ads and just going like, all right, I'm going to just release those ads and optimize those ads. But my focus is getting that messaging across and getting those products out to market through a broad targeting basis. So that's the main difference on a targeting basis. Generally, B2B is a lot more focused. So if you want to be like a very focused marketer like that, then that might be more fun. But sometimes people just want to like sell a product that everyone wants, right? Like a keyboard is quite widespread. Most people need a keyboard in their life. And so that's something you should consider. Now, the third is partners versus referrals. Now, once again, I'm not saying business consumers don't have partners, but a lot of the times your strategies around like getting more extra customers is through kind of like this kind of separation. And so partners, obviously B2B, you have people selling your products, especially if you're Microsoft, you have a lot of products. You can't just use your own sales function due to that. You have to use other people to help sell your products, because then you have a wider spread, you have wider reach, and you're getting more money for your buck, right? And B2C generally uses referral strategies. if a friend buys something and they refer someone else, they might get $10 off, and they get $10 off. It's kind of more of those referral strategies. Generally, you can't use referral strategies too much in B2B. You can for certain products, but for bigger products, generally the referral strategies go into the partner pool. So generally, that's the difference you need to think about. Partners is other companies selling your products, and referrals are like yourself. I want to make a few extra dollars because I like this keyboard. I want to go help and sell it to my friends who might also need a keyboard, and we both get $10 off or something. So that's something you need to think about. And the last thing I kind of want to talk about is technical versus emotional. Now, obviously, there's a lot of emotional can exist in B2B marketing. Obviously, you want to trigger the emotions and stuff like that, especially if you're trying to get them in. But the final purchase product, like, you're not generally going to get like emotions involved. You might have a bit of emotions, like especially if they need that product like urgently. But a lot of the times, it comes down to the nitty-gritty details. Does the product function well in our business? Will it integrate well? Like, all these technical questions a lot of the times. Well, B2C, a lot of the times, especially transactional stuff, like for example with Amazon, it can be triggered by a demand, or you need a kind of like use for right now, right? For example, I need a microphone to do this podcast. I'm going to buy it now. But a lot of the times, it does come down to a lot of emotional marketing, where a lot of ads and stuff trying to trigger your emotions and trying to trigger the fact that you need a product. For example, with the whole like Google Homes and your Amazon Echoes, using the whole like, hey, like it's really fun to use it kind of approach, like, oh yeah, I can get my kids to do it, like to use it as well, like just say, hey, what's the weather, or like, hey, what's this fun fact and something, and then using those emotions to trigger you to buy the product is a lot more common in B2C versus B2B, where a lot of it is like technical focus around what the product is. Obviously, a lot of the times it doesn't have to be like that, but I'm talking more of a technical area, and so most tech firms have their product can be technical, obviously, and so a lot of the times you have more of these technical talks or focused talks rather than like more emotional talks, right? And so, in my opinion, those are the 4 breakdowns of B2B versus B2C differences in tech firms. Hopefully this video gives you some insight. Once again, if you think I missed anything, or if you think you want some explanation on a certain term, please leave a comment please leave a comment below and I'll get to you. So yeah, thanks for watching.